This is the Relevant Podcast.
It's episode 1206, and it's the Relevant Podcast here in Orlando. I'm your host, Cameron Strang, and barely hanging on to life in Loverland, Virginia, it's Jesse Carey.
Hello.
Right in Nashville, it's artist, producer, mogul, Derek Miner.
What's happening?
And just down the street there, our managing editor, downtown Emily Brown.
Hey, y'all.
Okay, so first I'm going to tell you who the guest is. Then I have a little housekeeping, a little behind the scenes update for the listeners. But we have a big guest today. Malcolm Gladwell is joining us. He has a new book out, and Emily just got to talk to him yesterday. So it's pretty awesome.
Why didn't I get to do that interview? I'd have been like, look, bruh. First off,
I didn't know you were such a big fan.
I need to know your hair care routine. That's the first thing I would ask him.
He did the New York Times, CNN, and the Relevant Podcast. So
Emily, I was privileged enough to be able to speak to Emily briefly before the interview, and we kind of strategized some talking points. So, Emily, tell me, because I know we talked about a lot of angles that you guys could go. People are going to hear it, but what was your impression of Mr. Gladwell?
Yeah, I disregarded all the talking points you gave me, actually.
Wisely.
No, I'm just kidding. They were actually very helpful. No, he was really great. He's so smart. And so there's some people I've gotten to talk to that they're really, really smart. And I'm like, I feel like I have to be as smart as you, but I'm like, I do not know as much as you. It was just really cool to talk with him.
I would say in the last 3 years, out of the 150 interviews you've done, you have called me before maybe 2 or 3 of them, just to like, you were nervous and like, I want to make sure that I got all my ducks in a row. Let me talk this through with you and stuff. Yeah. And I was like, you know what? I'm out of my league with him. Call Jesse. So you called Jesse.
Yeah. Well, because it's so, like with him, it's like there's so many people who want to talk. I mean, everyone on this podcast wants to talk to him. So he's a very sought after person. So the fact that I get to talk to him, it's like, let me make the most of this time and make sure this conversation's good. But no, I mean, it was a great conversation he had.
Okay, tease it. What are we going to hear in a few minutes?
What was really interesting, we talked essentially about how a few people can make a really big societal change.
Okay. Like like 12 of them?
He actually brought up those 12 before
I
did.
A basketball team?
I was
including
the
full bench. Then you can change the world.
I've never heard this angle. I'm interested to hear him break it down.
Yeah, me and Malcolm Gladwell talked sports. That's what we did.
It's all about role players. All right. Okay, so a little behind the scenes. So that's coming up. We have slices as well. We have you asked us questions at the end of the show. So there's some great ones that came in. So we're excited about that. Okay, a little behind the scenes. We have an announcement. We are going to one show a week. The first 2 times this happened, it was an accident. This time, scheduling. But Emily and I talked, and we want to try this as an experiment. We want your help with it, you, the listener. So, for 15 years, we did one show a week, and it was like an hour and a half long. And then when we went remote in COVID, we didn't have the studio anymore for bands to come perform, because we did every episode, as you guys long-term listeners remember, we did an interview, and then at the end of the show, we had a band perform. It was like late night talk shows. And then we go remote. Bands aren't performing in my living room, so we had a second interview. And then I don't know if y'all listened in 2020, but like all these shows had like 2 interviews. So we just decided, why don't we just split that into 2 shows? It wasn't like a strategy. It was just seemed like a logical next step. Well, I'll be honest with you, watching the numbers since that shift, the listenership has declined, and we don't know if it's like there's too many shows that we're putting out and it's like diluting our fan base and our listeners, or if it's what the factors are. So as we're looking ahead, and I mentioned on the show a few weeks ago that we will be going to video and different things and expanding in other platforms, we decided we were going to go to one show a week then anyway, right? But we just decided, since that's coming, since we're working on it already, and we decided to make the change now. So we're just going to lean into it. So we're doing one show a week, but it will be a little longer. We've been doing 2 short shows. And if you've noticed, the last 2 episodes have been like an hour and 15 minutes. So a little more content, but just once a week. So, let us know what you think as we move forward in the next couple weeks. Like, do you find yourself listening more, staying on top of the episodes, staying connected? Do you wish there were more? Like, we want your feedback. This is nobody has it figured out anymore. You know what I mean? Like everybody does podcasting differently, and we're going to try some new stuff, and we want your feedback on it if you like it. So that's one announcement.
We're thinking of doing something different and introducing hot wings into the equation.
Never been done before.
See if that works. I'm excited. You know, I just needed to boost this more. Can I tell you guys about a harrowing experience that happened right before I got on?
Please. About your battery dying?
I'm ready.
Well, no, hold on.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah.
Like, how's that harrowing? How's it?
Well, I'll tell you, because I realized as the battery guy is doing his thing, like my battery died this morning, so I had to walk my kids to school, right? And I walked one of them to school. I came home and I jumped the car, and I was like, I'm just going to let it run in the driveway while I walk the other ones to school. So I walked the other ones, came, and the car's not running anymore, I'm like, oh no, well that shouldn't affect the battery. So long story short, I had AAA come out, charge me up, and he's like, yeah, I was able to jump it. He's like, does your car have that feature where it automatically turns off at like stop signs and stuff?
Oh,
you know what I'm talking about? So you guys aware of this feature? I'm like, yeah. He's like, well, that's probably what happened, and then it wouldn't turn back over. And so he got it going. I was like, I got to go to the auto shop like right now because I don't know what to do. So I got in the car and I started driving, and I'm approaching a stop sign. And I'm like, if I stop, the car will die and it can't turn back over.
Wasn't there a movie about this, Speed or something?
Yeah, I was in Speed, guys. I was like super stressed. I was just in the movie Speed from my house to the way of the shop.
Jesse,
I'm approaching. I'm like, what am I going to do? I like at the last minute one time I saw like cars backing up, like hit a side street, went around a cul-de-sac a couple times. Like, guys, it was.
You can cut that feature off.
I know, but I didn't know how. And I'm like frantically looking.
It's an A button with a circle around it. Universally in every car, it's an
Derek,
A button
I
with a
could
circle.
not find it, and I'm panicking. And every stop sign, like I'm telling you, there was at one point I had to like dart into traffic. Like I had to take a right into like a busy street, and I just like beat the horn, and people were. I mean, I pulled right in front of somebody, and it was either that or the car died. Okay. I didn't have a choice. It was reckless.
He's risking everybody's life because he couldn't find a button.
How far away is the auto shop?
Huh?
How far away was the auto shop?
Not far enough where I couldn't jump on my bike and ride back to my house to be on the podcast.
Jesse, you know what else you could have did? Jesse, you know what else you could have did? You could have just disconnected the battery and then took it and then bought another one.
True.
I know, but at this point, the car's running in the driveway. I already called the shop. They were like, yeah, bring it in. It was my guy. I know the guy at the shop. Okay, we're tight. He's like, bring it in, man. And so I'm like, all right, sweet. I got the bike, but then I'm like, oh no, stop. It's not going to be able to turn back over. And then I would just be stranded somewhere. I'd be stranded at a stop. I was in my head, like, if this thing dies at an intersection, what am I going to do?
When you came on the screen and looked so haggard, I thought it's because you've been sick all week. I didn't realize you just had a near-death experience weaving and bobbing through traffic because you can't stop.
At one point, I almost went in somebody's yard, like, in order to not stop.
The level of stress that was on Jesse's face when his camera came on.
Do you understand why? Do you understand why?
I get it, bro. I get it.
Derek's first words were, man, you look rough. You okay?
Put yourself in my position. Think about you're like, all right, casually driving, and then it suddenly clicks.
Why you ain't just disconnect the battery,
as soon as this stops, if this car comes to a complete stop, it will die and not be able to restart, and I'll be stuck.
There you go.
That would be bad too. Like that, the thing that is a very big fear of mine is being like my car breaking down in traffic, like either on the interstate or like on a busy intersection. That is the most frustrating, terrifying thing there is. Like I've been blessed not to be like stuck somewhere, but man, it is pretty scary. So I don't blame you for making the moves you made, man. I don't blame you.
Even pulling into the mechanic, like it was on the left. Okay, so like there's oncoming traffic, and it was like it was like I can't just sit here with my blinker on. You know
like
what I
Dukes
mean?
of Hazzard style. You're screeching
I
around the
came in
corner.
there. I came flying, like flew over the. They were looking at me. I was like, "Oh god!" And then I'm like creeping through the parking lot, like there's cars everywhere. I'm like, I got to find a place to park because wherever it stops, it's here.
It's
you
here.
know.
Coming in
So,
hot.
Anyway, just a little update about how my morning's going.
I will say that I was telling them while we were waiting for you that I had a interesting interaction with a AAA battery guy last week. Not as harrowing as yours. He was just trying to.
He was a pushy salesman.
He was a pushy salesman trying to make me pay $300 for a battery, and I had to stand my ground and say I'm going to O'Reilly's, even though I only said that because I called my dad on the guy's way over and was like, what do I tell him if he tries to make me buy?
Emily literally ended the story with, I stood my ground and defied him because I sized him up. I could take him. Like she was like, that gave her the confidence to like say no.
We were eye to eye and I was like, okay, so you're 5'8". I can take you.
Like, if you're not that pushy. Yeah.
Emily got hands, bro. Like I'm telling you, I don't want no smoke. I'm gonna tell you that right now.
My fight or flight, most of the time I'm pretty flighty, but if you push the right button,
you see all that art behind her, all those framed art. There's like 30 of them on her wall. Everybody thinks it's just a mural. No, those are each one covering up fist holes that
she stole all those artwork
from Hobby Lobby, who stole them from the book of the Bible archaeology.
Okay, some of them are from Etsy. Let's put some respect.
She has a fight club in her living room every week, and the art covers up the damage.
It be the quiet ones though, for real. She don't sit. She sits there and writes articles all day. She real quiet. She be chill. Them the ones that really lay you out. Like every fight I've ever seen at school that's went sideways is one of the quiet people they had enough. They had enough, and it's boom. It's like you got hit with a chair.
She's not a 9, but Enneagram 9s, they stuff it down to keep the peace, and then they can't anymore, and they explode and break all the dishes. So it's like the quiet ones that are like even keeled, then they snap. And that's Emily.
I don't want no smoke. Me personally, I don't.
All right. Well, all right. Moving the show along. Happier topics. Stay tuned. Up next, it's Slices. You're listening to Almost Monday. The song is Jupiter. Well, today's show is brought to you in part by John Grisham's new book, Framed. In it, John Grisham explores the dark side of the criminal justice system with innocence advocate Jim McCluskey. Framed tells 10 true stories of innocent people framed for murder and their fight for freedom. In Framed, you'll be astonished and inspired as you meet people whose faith sustained them when the deck was stacked against them and all seemed lost. Read Framed by John Grisham and Jim McCluskey. It's in stores now. Also available as an audiobook. Okay, it's time for
Slices.
All right, what do you have, Jesse?
All right. Well, this is great news, and I feel like whoever the collection of bipartisan lawmakers who champion this with the FTC have been listening to the pod, because this is something straight out of the Common Sense playbook. Okay, you guys know. Mm-hmm. I have the idea for a political party called the Common Sense Party. And we don't take one.
Not affiliated with commonsense.org, but.
No.
Okay.
We want nothing to do with them because they care
you don't
about
do petitions and surveys. Yeah, gotcha.
No. We don't take any guff either. The Common Sense Party is a no guff party. Okay. We don't need lobbyists. Our ideas are so good. We don't need outside funding. Okay. We just take care of reasonable problems like reasonable people.
Okay.
And
I'm with you.
The FTC has rolled out a new plan called Click to Cancel, which will require businesses. So, for example, gyms, subscription services, whether that's like an app or, your cable or even like online retailers, that you can make ending and canceling any subscription very easy and just ultimately with one click. So if you guys have ever tried to like cancel your cable or you know, cancels.
You're required to call in. They do the sales pitch.
Yeah.
Dude,
it's very uncomfortable.
I'll be honest with you. This is embarrassing, but 5 years ago, I moved to a different part of town, and I still pay for a gym on that side of town that I haven't been to in 5 years. And I have called to cancel. I've tried to cancel online. You have to go in. I'm just never over there. And then I forget about it for 29 days. And then I see the charge and I get mad at myself. It's been 5 years. This law will change my bank account. I'm so excited about this to be able to cancel gyms online with one click. Heck yeah. Let's go.
It could also dramatically change the bank account. A short errand. You could just ride over there.
Hey, you're speaking to a lazy person. It's like 25 minutes away. I don't ever go over there.
Cameron.
By
Why
the
do
way,
I have to go in? Why do I have
the
to go
new
in?
requirements will not go in place.
I don't need
in 6
the guilt.
months.
They're going to look at my shape and be like, dude, you really want to cancel? Are you sure about this? I don't need the shame that's going to happen. So
whenever I have to cancel a subscription and they make me call, I probably shouldn't admit this, but I always tell them that I lost my job and I'm having to reassess my finances.
Yo!
So you lie?
Yeah. So forget the 10 Commandments. Who cares?
Yeah, and then I pray and apologize to God later. But like,
That's how it works.
I had to one time, years ago, I used to do HelloFresh and then I canceled it and they were like trying to give me all these deals, sell me on it. And I just, it came to mind. I was like, I'm sorry, I lost my job. I have to reassess finances.
HelloFresh, you can actually go online and just cancel online.
Well, this was years ago.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
Why do you feel the need to fabricate a personal?
Because they kept pushing and they were like, what if we give you this? They're being a good salesman. And I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. Mind you, I was sitting at my desk job when I was
I'm with you,
this.
though. They have a script that if you say this is how you counter it. If they say this is how you counter it. The only one they can't counter is death and unemployment. You know what I mean?
It was I knew they wouldn't have a
jump
comeback
to the end of the script with that one. I'm with you. I don't condone lying, but I get the theory.
You know what y'all need? Y'all need practice because listen.
I think mine works.
No, you need practice, and I'm gonna tell you how you can get your reps up.
Okay.
So when me and my wife first got married, we was very, very broke. We didn't have any money, but we wanted to travel and we wanted to go on vacations. So every year we took a timeshare pitch.
I'm glad you brought this up.
And I'm like, if you could tell them no, you could tell anybody no. So I'm just like, Emily, just instead of going to Italy like you normally go and all that, just start going to timeshare pitches. And you start doing that, and then you'll just get so used to telling no. I could tell anybody no. Only person I can't tell no is God. That's the only person I can't tell no. But those timeshare pitches are brutal.
Emily can tell no to God because he said don't lie, and she said no. I'm going to.
No, we're moving on from that. No, that's the thing. I do tell them no. I call them and say, hey, I want to cancel. It's them going through the script, and it's I'm gonna say no 50 million times. This is me saving us both time. Of there's literally nothing you're gonna say or offer me to get me to say.
But the problem is, it's still based on a lie. It's still
sure, whatever.
But what I'm saying is, why do
the opinions of Emily Brown do not reflect Relevant Media Group, Relevant Magazine, or any of the other cast members?
Because Emily, if you just go in and say, listen, I'm canceling. I don't want to be upsold. Just end it, and then just hang up.
I've literally said, there's nothing you're going to offer me to keep me on here, and they're like, well, what if we do this? And I think that's what prompted me to be like, I lost my job.
Look, I did the timeshare thing too, Derek, and it involves a breakfast first, and you have to eat breakfast with the salesperson first, and you sit there and have a meal with them, and the whole conversation over the meal was like, look, man, we can do this whole song and dance, but we ain't buying. And he's like, all right. And we ate the breakfast. And I'll tell you, we had to go back to his office, see the whole, he knew the whole time and he was still pushing hard. And he's like, now that you've seen it all? And we're like, no. And he's like, he brings in a closer. Derek, you get the closers brought in on you?
Oh yeah, I got the closer.
And he's like, I heard you guys said over breakfast you weren't interested. He's like, I hear that all the time, and I got a lot of happy customers. I'm telling you, it's layers, and it's like a video game, okay? Because they'll bring in the final. He's like, you know what? I don't usually do this. I'm going to bring in our boss, and we'll see what we can do here. And then they bring it's like the final boss of like a video, like a level of a video game. If you can make it through that, Emily, I think you should do it. I think you
Okay,
should
but
go
now
to it.
you've wasted 3 people's time. Like, because
No,
you know
they
that.
wasted
But-
their time because I
Because
told
I
them
told
up
them.
front,
Yes.
I ain't buying nothing. And
At
I
this
told them
point-
why, because I don't want it. That's it.
And they choose to enter the Thunderdome and have a chess match with you. And they
That's
know
it.
if they lose, that's fine. They played the game. They went in willingly.
Right.
This was based on everyone was telling the truth. And it is hard, Derek. Is it not hard
It's
after that
hard.
to walk away?
You guys
It
have
is.
lost hours of your life when you could have just told him you lost your
Hey,
job.
but
and
guess
moved
what?
on.
Guess what? I got to go to Sarasota, Florida for 2 days and 3 nights for
No
free.
offense to Sarasota, I don't really want to go there.
And I got a poolside
As a
canopy.
Floridian, you don't need to go
I got
to
a free
Sarasota.
poolside. I got a free day in a poolside canopy. Okay, that was like a $200 for like an hour. I got like a $200 value. Totally worth
You
it. And a
guys
free
have got to
breakfast.
start dreaming bigger. First
And a
off,
free, and a
Well,
free
listen,
breakfast.
I'm bougie now. I'm
With
just
my boy
saying,
Sal.
I'm saying this is
Yeah.
broke Derek. Derek's not
Struggle
broke no more.
meals,
Derek's
yeah.
bougie. But I'm saying I'm trying to help you.
to clarify, I've only done this a few times. One was the HelloFresh one. One was I signed up for this subscription called Fabletics, where they send you
Yeah.
free. You get 2 free
That's
leggings when you sign up.
the celebrity lady.
Kate
What's
Hudson,
her name?
yes.
Kate Hudson. Yeah.
And I got the
Gotcha.
$25 leggings and then called to cancel. And
But if you're gonna lie, at least make it a better one than you lost your job, because they can still push.
It's
You
a
can
pretty
say,
good one because it works.
I just had 4 fingers on one hand amputated, and I can't open the package. If you must
See,
know,
that feels too far.
if you must know why, see if they try to upsell you. Then everyone's like, oh yeah, okay, yeah, let's get the paperwork started.
Yeah, Hello Fresh is like, hey, look, I'm on a GMO diet now. Just eat GMOs. Like just,
Only GMOs.
I just only eat GMOs. Like
Only
just do that.
MSG, nothing else. Jesse, FTC approved this change? Oh, I mean, this is happening or is
Yeah,
proposed?
this is happening now.
How long does it take to kick in? When can
6
I
months.
cancel this gym
6
membership?
months.
Okay.
6 months.
All right. So I got 6 more
get
months of
clipped
gym
and
Or a
membership.
canceled.
short errand or a quick phone call that you lost your job.
Or that I died. I can just call him like, this is his brother. He's dead now. Stop charging him.
Yeah. So some people can stop living in sin by lying.
Yeah, the FTC is keeping me honest. Thank you,
Hey
government.
guys, can the FTC work on the spam text messages and calls next?
You get those? I don't get any anymore,
Right.
except
what?
from the Harris campaign. But
Dang,
do.
Kamala is out here bugging
daily, Tim Walz is desperate. Like, it's daily texts and emails, man. I'm like, I'm just curious. Like, I don't respond to any of them, but I haven't canceled it or hit unsubscribe because I'm just curious their strategy. It's a lot.
Yeah.
So anyway,
I
that's the only
texted-
one I get.
I got
Full
in a
press.
long political debate by texting back one of those one day.
You did not.
No,
I did. I promise
Jesse,
you.
you did not. bro.
I promise.
He wouldn't
Like,
lie. He's not me.
I'm not. And so I was getting one. It was like, hey, would you take this survey about what, and it was or like, it had like a question that I was asking. It was a loaded question. And I was like, dude, this question is so ridiculously biased. I know no one's reading this, but you're wrong for even framing it like this. Like,
Wow.
and I
You
texted it
told the
back.
bot off. Wow.
Well, a real human texted back and was like, why do you think it's biased? And I was like, well, blah, blah, blah. And they're like, well, that's not biased. We're trying to demonstrate. And I was like, well, you're not. You're doing the opposite. And it was and then it got into actual policies with some rando. And it went on for like 2
I need
days.
to see him. I need to see the texts.
I got to find it. It
I
happened
want
last.
to post them, dog. I need to see him.
Dude, it went on forever. It was like 2 days.
2 days.
2 days?
At
That's
some
the
point,
most
I can't
Jesse
remember.
thing on the
I
planet,
can't believe
bro.
I can't remember if it was me or him that were like, "All right, we just have to be done." Like this is
Agree
going
to
to go.
disagree.
I'm going to find it, but it was from a while back. But I will.
That's really
find
funny. All right. 6 months more and then one click, cancel, whatever. I love
it.
it.
Yeah.
And I can stop lying in 6 months.
You'll stop lying in 6 months. All right. What do you have, Derek?
So, for those of you that don't know, Cameron knows this a little bit. I pretty much been on a social media. Like I've been deleting the apps pretty much every month for like weeks at a time. I'll usually check my messages from my desktop, or I'll download the app, post what I need to post, and then delete it so that I'm not doom scrolling, because I feel like every 4 years, especially during the political season, everything gets really toxic and really useless. So I'm like, you know what? I don't want to be ingesting things. And turns out that my instincts are correct, because study comes out that says if you watch 260 or more TikTok videos, which you can pretty much do that in 3 minutes, then you're going to develop addictive behaviors. The findings link excessive use to a serious mental issue, including impaired memory, loss of analytical skills, diminished empathy, and heightened anxiety. Information comes from 14 different state attorney generals, and they're saying TikTok pretty much is promoting they're promoting only a certain type of person. So it's like the really quote unquote attractive by whatever standards they're doing that. And then they're also promoting.
So this is based on that lawsuit, 14 states suing TikTok. This is the stuff that came out.
Yes,
that
sir.
one's crazy to me. So when I heard 260 videos, because we posted this a few days ago, 260 videos to get addicted, I was like, who watches 260 videos? And then Emily, didn't you do the math that that's an average of 35 minutes?
Yeah.
That's it.
If you're on TikTok for 35 minutes, it literally flips a switch in your brain toward addiction.
Boom.
Wow.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Because we've all been on TikTok for 35 minutes laying in bed at night or something, you know. But two, this other algorithm thing where they proved with internal documents from TikTok that unattractive people were bad for the For You page.
Wow.
And like TikTok got less engagement. So they built the algorithm to look for conventionally attractive people and fill the For You page with conventionally attractive people. And if you're an ugly person, your content will be squashed by the algorithm.
That's crazy.
That's crazy.
That's crazy. By whatever standard they feel is beautiful and ugly.
Yeah.
You know what
The
I'm saying?
scientific, conventional, attractive, symmetrical, whatever.
But
Isn't that nuts?
here's the question, though, and I'm not defending that, but just hear me out.
You don't want a bunch of uggos in your feed? Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying is that demonstrate something about how evil TikTok is, or is it our problem? Because if people who are not deemed conventionally attractive were getting more engagement, they would be at the top of the algorithm.
Right.
Is it demonstrating a problem with humanity, or because the algorithm is just serving up the ones that get the most engagement? We're the ones clicking on the conventionally attractive people to boost them in the algorithm.
Well, this study is saying the opposite. It's saying that the algorithm is hunting for people that are traditionally attractive and then boosting their
them.
content.
Even with low engagement. They're
With low
boosting 'cause-
engagement. So the idea is, which we know that social media companies can do this. They can heat up accounts and they can squash accounts. It's not the same across the board for every person that creates an account. Some accounts get heated up, some get squashed. So this is saying that their algorithm is heating up accounts with people that hit a certain metric as far as attractiveness, which is crazy because think about this. An algorithm is reading your face and saying, uggo, nope. And then it's reading your face.
Yeah,
it's reading your face and it's saying, oh, this person's attractive. Let's throw them on the For You page. And they're not doing anything of any value. The person that's maybe not traditionally attractive could be giving you the cure for cancer and online, and it's like, nah, not getting that. But then you got somebody doing the doggone floss that looks pretty, and then they just put them on the For You page.
That's interesting. I see, because I was going to say, like, I'm not really surprised by this, though, because advertising, right? I mean, models are conventionally attractive, and that's what advertisers know sells products, gets your attention, and looks appealing. So this is no different than that. But you're right. TikTok isn't advertising. TikTok is content. So this scientist talking about a cure for cancer who's kind of ugly, that's going to get squashed, or informing people about the election or whatever if they're not pretty people. That's crazy.
Yeah.
That content is being affected by attractiveness, not just advertising.
I think the real solution is we just need more attractive scientists.
That's it.
That's it. Hey, I think they should all go through plastic surgery. Let's get it.
Real quick.
Less models, more scientists.
I found the thread. It was from last election cycle. And it came with, it had this image, right? Vote to empower parents in education. And that's a sensitive issue. I have a lot of family in education. And this was what I was sent. Okay. The left's radical education agenda, low test scores, teaching their own sexual ideology instead of academics, and keeping parents out of kids' education. Hi, this is Mike with American Majority Action. Can we count on you to fight back against the left's radical education agenda? Reply stop to opt out. And I said, what are you referring to? Their own sexual ideology instead of academics, thinking this is just going back into the void. And a couple hours later, sexualizing curriculum for young children rather than focusing on teaching academics. I was like,
who does that? What school district has ever done that?
Well, that's what I said. I said, I have parents, I have family in education. Can you, I was like, do you have any examples of this? And this is what the bot texted back. I'm sure you've seen several screenshots of it online or in the news by now. Teachers leak them out because they're appalled by it. I was like, let's talk screenshots. This is what we're going on. And then we just go back and forth, but you can reply to those bots, and every once in a while, someone will reply to those election ones. I learned it firsthand, but that's you get in a days long political debate and it goes nowhere.
And I bet they're not very attractive. Sorry.
That's why I don't reply. The bots aren't pretty enough. I never reply to them.
Uggo bots.
Uggo bots. All right, what do you have, Emily?
I want to talk about this video that's gone viral on YouTube recently. It's got about 4 million views last time I checked. It's a new worship song called Holy Jesus by Justin Bieber.
I just want to know what it looks like to love people, you know. I want to know that Jesus who goes to where the broken people are, you know. You're the voice I hear, bringing peace, casting out my fear. Every moment, you're the reason why I lift my hands and praise you high. In your presence I am home, Lord, I trust you with my soul. You're the shepherd who leads the way, guiding me through each and every day. Holy Jesus, you're my faithful Savior. Every knee will bow, every heart will call. Holy Jesus, shining pure and bright. You're the way, the truth, the light.
This is absolutely AI.
Yeah.
It is. It absolutely is. We all are aware that this is AI. A lot of the people in the comments are not. They think this is real.
They're so excited that Bieber's doing
Putting
a
out
worship project.
They're
and
commenting
giving
things
us
like,
lots of lore.
praise God for what he's doing in Justin's life. Preach it, Justin.
And they're getting ministered to by this AI content. It's
Yeah.
really interesting.
They're being scammed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But this guy, like the guy, his name's Evan. He's been putting out multiple like worship songs. This one just happened to go viral, but
Yeah.
some of them are getting like a couple million views, and people are like, Justin's putting out worship songs. Why isn't this on Spotify yet? And it's like,
Because
this isn't. It's AI. And so it does bring up an interesting question. Like, I mean, if people are generally being impacted by it, and say a believer actually thinks that Justin's putting out worship songs and they listen to it and they get impacted by it, like, I don't know. It has some interesting implications.
Wrong. No, it's wrong.
You think it's wrong?
It's wrong. You're still in a person's name and likeness.
Mhm.
And you're using it to make songs and create ad revenue and streaming money for yourself. You're not giving Justin Bieber any of that money. You're taking all the money for yourself. And yeah, there may be some people that are being impacted by this, but at the same time, you're also fleecing them because they think that someone is doing something that they're not.
Aside from the deception side of it, like as a kid grew up in Pentecostal charismatic church, there was a big emphasis on the anointing. You know, God anoints you to preach or lead worship or, you know, whatever. And like God's anointing is the thing that gave you the inspiration for those lyrics or that melody. And then God will use that divinely inspired thing that you're a vessel for to, you know, usher in the presence of God and lead people in worship and all that kind of stuff. the larger, deeper question that this stuff, as it pertains to worship and preaching or Christian content, is AI ain't anointed.
Mm-hmm.
But
so, like, can something be created by an artificial means or computer and be anointed? That these people, if you read the comments, are truly being ministered to by it. They feel the presence of God when they listen to this song and sing along.
well, it's the same thing with like, if AI wrote a sermon that included a prayer in it, you know what I mean? Like, and
Right.
that, for like a benediction, I think
We need the church needs to wrestle with this, like what the anointing versus content versus. I mean, like, aside from the mimicry and he's stealing Justin's identity, that's not really the deeper. I mean, that's terrible and that shouldn't happen. It happens to artists all the time. I mean, there's Drake did it with Tupac. You know, I mean, like, but I mean, like, I'm saying, like, what does this imply for the church?
It's no different than a pastor plagiarizing someone's sermons.
But to that point, real quick, like AI is not making it up out of the blue. It's ingested thousands of worship songs, and you know what I mean. If the message isn't outside of orthodoxy, then there's no reason I don't think it could have the same spiritual impact as a song that someone else said that a human wrote. Like it's not like AI is just making it up out of the sky.
Yeah, but what if a Satanist wrote a worship song based on existing lyrics and stuff? I don't know. It's just murky because the way we were taught, it was like somebody like this is an anointed song or this is an anointed sermon. Like God speak through me and whatever. And it's like God speaking through AI. Are we like open to God speaking through AI?
I hate to be the cynical Derek guy. I know I'm often that guy, but I'm going to go ahead and do this, especially when it comes to music, especially when it comes to Christian music. But a lot of the things that people call anointed is mostly just a great strategy for pulling emotion out of people. Like I believe that music, I believe that things have certain vibrations or they feel a certain way. Certain chords move you a certain way. And there's a reason why most of the worship songs have the same chord progressions and have the same containers for how the lyrics are created, is because they can make you emotional, right? And then it's on the person that's penning the lyrics to do the detail work of, making sure that the message hits home. But a lot of these worship songs, I hate to be that guy, but they're no different than. This is going to be bad. There's no different than a machine, a factory line. Like a lot of these writers, they're doing the same thing over and over and over and over again. And because a lot of people aren't behind the curtain, they don't understand it's a machine. Like worship is a machine. Like it's a musical machine. It's no different than a pop music machine or a rap music machine. It's a machine. And it's just how rap music goes through seasons and phases where, this is working, let's do more of this. Same thing happens with worship.
Here's one more little thought experiment. Like a lot of times, like the teaching pastor at our church is like multi-campuses or whatever. So he'll be on screen, right? Delivering a sermon. If hypothetically you had an AI pastor, right? Like somebody that was made in an AI program, is not real. And you went into some sort of ChatGPT and said, hey, based on the works of, and you named like 50 to 200 theologians, I want to get a sermon about whatever, right? And you just had this AI pastor preach a sermon written by AI every week, and people are getting impacted. Is there anything?
I don't know.
Fundamentally
That's what I'm saying.
wrong
Like,
about
this is
it?
unprecedented. I don't know. I don't know what to think about it.
Mm-hmm. It's a crazy time, and I don't have no answers to it.
The stealing and identity misrepresenting who the creator is, black and white, wrong, right? It's wrong, but this whole thing of like God inspired me or God anointed me to create this thing, and God can't anoint and create a computer or an algorithm. Like it's interesting. Is it? Yeah.
I think Jesse's point though. The AI is borrowing from great songwriters. It's borrowing from the greatest songwriters of all time,
right.
And it's taking and it's analyzing their tendencies and saying, like what I said, it's made the machine via machine, as opposed to three writers in a room saying, man, you know, when Chris Tomlin wrote this way, that impacted me this way. I'm going to imitate that style or whatever. You know what I mean? Like it's just taking the human out of the machine.
Emily,
why you do
let's
this?
end on a fun note.
Why you do this to us?
I mean, I'll say I've been having fun listening to AI worship Justin Bieber. So I would love like a remix. I wish it was more of like.
I mean, what if AI leads you in the salvation prayer and like somebody? I don't know. I mean, I get the Romans Road content is there. AI can share it with you, and you can choose to.
The gospel. Look, the gospel is so powerful that it can, whether it's a donkey or if a rock that will cry out. It's not the person. You're right. It's not the machine.
You're right.
It's the power of the gospel. The gospel is anointed. Right? Like it is so powerful that, like I said, if we
the
don't
Bible
do
was
it,
written today, instead of the rocks crying out, because that was Israel. There's a lot of rocks laying around. It would be if AI's crying out, if AI's leading in worship, if you won't praise him, AI will praise him.
Yeah,
that's the same thing, right?
Yeah. Well, except I think not to split hairs, but I think in that case, it's talking about all of creation cries out. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like the rock.
All of the algorithms cry out.
Yeah. But again,
I think too, to remember, I just think about the scripture where Paul, his disciples came to him and said, somebody is teaching the gospel out of vain or teaching it out of like nefarious reasons. And he said, as long as the gospel is being preached, I don't care. You know what I'm saying?
So about the content, not the messenger kind of.
Yeah, and I think that it's just, we're seeing God can use anything to motivate and move people. Like being a person that's been in Christian music for a decade plus, I've seen God use some of the most flawed individuals, including myself, to do some of the most amazing things. So, you know, same thing with robots. It's like, hey, if God, he going to use whatever he wants to use to get his purpose done. So
that Tesla robot that I'm going to buy in a couple of years, I'm going to train it to lead worship for my home group. And it's going to be great.
The key thing though is like, you know, it's a robot. The people in these YouTube comments don't know it's a robot.
Duped. Deception.
And they think that Justin's out here preaching.
Poor Bieber.
To be clear, he is a Christian. Like he does talk about it.
He's had a rough year this year.
He has had a rough year, but we don't need to make up worship songs. He's got plenty of other songs.
All right, well, stay tuned. Up next, we'll ask Malcolm Gladwell about all this. Stay tuned. Up next, we talk to Malcolm Gladwell.
Do you think he's a believer?
So free, so fun, so consistently a winner in my mind. On a mission to the side to side, watching the world go, still when the weather is better. Don't get your feet down, doing well up there, going so at peace now. I'm holding on.
You're listening to Rum Jungle. The song is Weather's Better. Today's podcast is also brought to you in part by the new book, Counting Miracles. One miracle might change 3 lives forever. From Nicholas Sparks, author of A Walk to Remember and The Notebook, Counting Miracles is an emotional novel about second chances. It follows Tanner, a former Army Ranger searching for his father, Caitlin, a doctor balancing work and family, and Jasper, an elderly man facing personal tragedy. As their paths cross, none expect a miracle, but it may change their futures forever. A story of redemption and belonging, Counting Miracles is available wherever books are sold. Well, today our guest is none other than Malcolm Gladwell. He's the host of the Revisionist History podcast and the author of books like The Tipping Point and David and Goliath. And he was the subject of a cover story in Relevance print edition, I think in late 2019. He joins us today to talk about his new work, which focuses on how a small group of people can bring about massive societal change, reminding us that we all play an important role in our communities. Here's our conversation with Malcolm Gladwell.
You speak a lot about the idea of pro-social contagion. Can you unpack what that idea is for our listeners?
Just that behavior in an enormous number of areas is contagious, that we pick up our direction on what we deem appropriate by looking at those around us. And those kinds of contagions feed on themselves. You know, there's a kind of, the more people you see doing something, the more likely you are to pick up that behavior from them. And yeah, that works for positive change all the time. I mean, you just have to kind of observe, outpourings of giving after a disaster. What's that about? That's about a kind of social, a society-wide outpouring of emotion. And people get swept up in that. They get infected by that virus, and they're moved to do things they would normally otherwise not consider. But that also works negatively as well, that some very nasty patterns of mind and practice can be picked up socially.
Through your research, what have you learned about the capacity one person has to make massive changes?
Well, it's the idea, the important idea is this idea of radical asymmetry, that the patterns of spread of any kind of an infectious agent are driven by a small number of people. And the key thing about the small number of people who are at the core of any epidemic is they are not typical. They differ in certain key ways. So, I have a chapter in the book on COVID and talk about how now looking back, we realize the COVID virus was spread by only a very small number of people who, for reasons we don't entirely understand, emitted hundreds, if not thousands of times more viral particles than the rest of us. In other words, if you have a group of 100 people, all of whom are infected with COVID, probably only 3 or 4 of them were really doing any kind of major transmitting of the virus. I mean, it explains the puzzle. I don't know if you remember back this, but so many cases of people in a family, for example, where one member of a family would get COVID and the rest would not, which doesn't make any sense. How is that? How can you sleep next to someone in a bed and not get COVID from them, right? How can you not give your kids COVID if you're picking them up and playing with them? But that happened all the time. And that's because most of us did not transmit the virus to somebody else. That the transmission was done by a very, very small group of people who, like I said, had some kind of physiological difference that meant that they emitted way, way, way more virus particles than the norm. That pattern is true of almost all epidemics. It's a small core that drives them. I mean, to use this is a relevant podcast, let's use Jesus and the disciples. I mean, it's not an army of people. It's not 500 missionaries going out across, biblical Palestine and the surroundings preaching the word. It's a small number of hand-picked people, right? Self-selected people who somehow are capable of reaching and moving a vast majority of others. That's the model. So the key is understanding, well, who are those people? How can we identify them, empower them, equip them to be kind of positive agents for change?
Thinking of our audience, like you mentioned, what are some qualities we should look for in people that we should be rallying around?
Well, some of the answer is kind of obvious, that, what are we drawn to when we're drawn to others? We're drawn to authenticity, we're drawn to trustworthiness, we're drawn to charisma. Let's be clear. If I put 100 successful preachers in a room, they're going to be different from the rest of us, right? They're going to be people of real kind of warmth and charisma and that kind of power. But there's some kind of, and also I think energy. Energy is a big one. I've always been struck when I have met people, whether they're inside the faith or outside of it, who have had the ability to move others. A lot of it is just, they have a kind of dynamism and energy that there's more hours in the day. There's more, they're not flagging. That's hugely important. They're, in a certain sense, they're like athletes. They have a kind of physical capacity that allows them to keep going when the rest of us want to quit. But I don't know if it's possible, though, to precisely identify what that is. It's one of the kind of enduring mysteries of humanity. But there are these. In my first book, The Tipping Point, I talked about the law of the few, and that's really where I'm still kind of marveling over, which is just how much power lies in the hands of a very small number of people.
Like we said, not everyone is going to be in a position of power, but there are a lot of Christian influencers, leaders, pastors who will have the potential to make great changes. What should they keep in mind to make sure they're moving the church and their community in the right direction?
Well, I think people need to understand the kind of, first of all, just the kind of power they have been given, right? I mean, that means that they have to be held to a higher standard. If I'm someone who can say crazy things and no one will listen to me, that's, I should not be held accountable in the same way as someone who says crazy things but has the personal power to make those crazy things go far and wide. With that kind of God-given set of traits comes a heavy responsibility. And I think sometimes we kind of glory in the uniqueness of those gifts and don't spend enough time talking about the responsibility that comes with them. A good analogy would be, in that chapter on COVID, I talk about how there's a small majority of people who, when we talk about a respiratory virus like COVID, who are, for whatever reason, are emitting 1,000 times more virus than anybody else. Think about what that means. Suppose I were to say, I were identified that you and I were both that kind of person. For whatever reason, when there's an airborne virus, a respiratory virus, we're super spreaders. If another COVID came along and we knew that we were like that we had that characteristic, we have a responsibility to conduct ourselves in a different way than everybody else, right? If you're infected with COVID, you should not You should not be getting on a plane. You really could infect the whole plane, and people did. I mean, plane is not a bad example, but these kinds of super spreaders, they did it. In most cases, they didn't realize they were super spreaders. But I imagine by the time the next pandemic rolls around, we will be able to identify those people who play this very peculiar role. They need to think long and hard about their own behavior. I don't mean that in a kind of threatening or menacing way, but that's just what it means to be a human being, that you must take into account the effect you have on others if you want to live your life in a kind of moral and honorable way. And if you or I if we knew we had that trait, that changes the way we behave next time around.
That was Malcolm Gladwell. Be sure to check out his newest book, Revenge of the Tipping Point. All right, stay tuned. Up next, we've got Ask the Cast. Well, today's show is brought to you in part by World Vision. We all subscribe to a lot of services that make our lives easier and more entertaining. But as followers of Jesus, we should want to seek first the kingdom of God in all areas of life, including our spending. That's why I'm so excited about a new kind of subscription through World Vision. Not one for myself, but for others. It's called Believers for World Change. And when you sign up, you're joining a community of change makers working to help end extreme poverty around the world and here at home. World Vision is a Christian humanitarian organization that works with children, families, and communities to reach their God-given potential, focusing on things like gender equality, spiritual nurture, and access to clean water, education, job training, and healthcare, so the entire picture of poverty can be addressed. Let's subscribe to something new together. Subscribe to World Change today at worldvision.org. Again, that's worldvision.org. Well, Relevant has a lot happening this year, and we don't want you to miss a thing. Make sure to sign up for our newsletter right there on the front page at relevantmagazine.com, and we'll send you our top 5 trending stories sent to your inbox every weekday. We'll also send you a weekly podcast newsletter with the latest episodes, some fan extras, and first peeks at the new shows that we're going to be rolling out throughout this year. Make sure to sign up. It's the best way to keep in touch with everything we got going on. Okay, it is time for Ask the Cast. We asked you last week to send us questions instead of us asking you a feedback question. You guys hit us up on X at Relevant Podcast and posted in our IG stories and stuff, answered the poll. Here's a few of our favorite questions. Some of these are for specific cast members, by the way. You see that?
I do.
Oh, and by the way, listener, normally I would bring them to the cast, but there's so many good ones. I just threw the document, shared the document, so everybody's just going to grab the ones that they like. So here we go.
I'm curious about this one from Tommy G31. If you could switch lives with one cast member for a day, who would it be and why?
We all live normal lives. There's no perk. Switching lives.
That's to me. That's easy. That's Emily.
Yeah.
Me?
Emily. Yes, you don't got no kids. You don't got no kids. You just up and go to a Taylor Swift concert, spend your money all irresponsibly, $3,000 for a Taylor Swift concert. You go home and your mama's white, but can cook. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know what I'm saying? Your dad's 6'4", he can whoop people. Shoot, I'm swapping with Emily for a day. I'm gonna be single.
That's a good call.
White girl for one day. That's what we doing. That's easy for me.
You just made me feel so good about my life.
You do not know. You winning. You come home and nobody peed on your toilet. Except for you. You the only person peed on your toilet.
I've never had that problem.
Yeah, Emily, if somebody did, run.
All the food that was in the refrigerator that when you left, it's the same food when you get
Still
back.
there.
It's not gone.
Yeah.
Did nobody take a bite out your sandwich and put it back, drink out the juice took the top and drink straight out the bottle? Shoot, man, you got it made.
You know, Derek, I was going to say your life I'd switch with, but you're kind of making a case that I should pick someone else here.
Don't do it. You're gonna be stepping in preteen pee on the floor like that. You don't want to do that. You don't want this. You don't want this.
I like the logic there.
Tyler Smith, 22. What's your most useless talent, and how often do you actually use it?
My most useless talent is being able to get on a microphone and ramble on for about an hour. And I use it once a week.
You use it 1,200 times in your lifetime.
Yeah.
I can pick up stuff with my toes,
Ew.
like picking up clothes off the floor and stuff like that.
I hate feet. That's so gross.
I'm like, I have like random areas of knowledge. I don't know if that's a talent, but I can recall like things about certain topics, but they're not topics that are of interest of anyone, like random 90s sitcoms. Like we could just sit down and chop it up, but that serves me in no way ever,
See, I think I have
or
that
internet rabbit holes or something that doesn't do me any good,
I was going to say, I feel like mine's probably general pop culture knowledge about different things. And that only benefits me when I happen to go to like a trivia night with friends.
Yeah.
So
if the podcast were to compete in a reality show, which one would it be and who would win?
Survivor.
It would definitely be Survivor. And Jesse's going to win without a doubt because Jesse
because he's shifty.
He's shifty, but he's also committed. Like
That's
Jesse
right.
has a level of commitment to certain
willpower.
things that I'm like, there's
That's
no
true.
way I could do it.
And he'll make friends through the whole thing. So then in that final thing where you have to vote for who wins, everybody would vote for Jesse because they all love him.
Yeah, it would be Cameron and Jesse in the end. I'm out first.
And then it's a popularity contest.
Yeah,
and of course,
I
Jesse's
actually
going to
think
win.
I'm out first because I don't think I get off the boat. I have no desire to go on Survivor.
Oh, man.
Living
Bucket
in
list.
the-
I want to get on Survivor. If they do Survivor middle-aged edition one day, I'm
Living in the
flying.
wilderness, having to hunt for my food, bump that. No.
Yeah.
If I can't order DoorDash, I'm not going.
They give
Fine,
you
well, then
rice
I'm second.
rations.
I'm second,
you can
man.
just eat rice for 3 weeks. You're
No,
fine.
see y'all. Y'all have fun. I'll vote for Jesse if there's a fan vote or whatever, but
I like Hannah's. This was everyone can chime in here. It was asked to me and Cameron, but what is Nicolas Cage's best and worst movie? Now, I've been thinking about this since we started the segment. I looked at it in the doc because she didn't say best and worst performance. She said best and worst movie. You know, because I do feel like there's some movies where he has an incredible performance, but it's not as good as some of his other movies.
Sure.
Because he does have a pretty impressive catalog. I'll start with the worst is definitely Objectively Left Behind. Like, that is barely a movie, you know? Yeah, I mean,
well, he's barely in the movie. You could tell he agreed to film for 2.5 days.
Yeah.
And he just showed up, didn't know what the movie was, read some lines off a cue card and left. I mean,
I
it was
can
awful.
thankfully say I've never seen that movie.
We watched it out of morbid curiosity. Jesse, Adam Smith, and me went to the theater, sat on the second row, and cheered throughout it. So it was great. Yeah.
That's such a troll move.
I think, re-looking at his catalog, just to jog my memory, I think Raising Arizona is probably regarded as his best movie, though I always go, and you guys can say what you want, or like Adaptation is really good. You know, some of his recent, he's done a couple, even like The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent, where he
That's
plays.
my absolute favorite.
It is good.
Favorite.
Like he has some legitimately good movies. He was in obviously Into the Spider-Verse or into the you know, he is one of the alternate universe like noir Spider-Man or whatever.
Oh, that's right. I forgot. Yeah.
But I still think a movie that if it's on, like if you're flipping through and you can jump in at any point.
Are you going Con Air or Face
Con Air, baby? Con Air. That move.
Yes, sir.
Dude, Con Air is still like scene to scene. I'm telling you, it like
I'm stopping to watch it.
At any point,
commercials
you could have,
and all. I don't care if it's commercials and all.
You could be on. You could be on the transport initially with like Dave Chappelle. Great scene. You could have any of like the John Malkovich. Great scenes. Great scenes. You know what I mean? They land a plane on the Vegas Boulevard and has like a car chase. You could watch just the end and it's good. Like they have so many beats in that movie. Derek, you're with me.
Watch it, and I'm going to watch it right after this.
Hey, as a movie, Derek, does Con Air not that is not that a banger of a movie?
It's a win. It's a win. And The Rock.
1997 was Face Off and Con Air. It's kind of like when Steven Spielberg did Jurassic Park and Schindler's List in the same year in 92. Like his 97 run, his late 90s run, Nicolas Cage is unstoppable.
Rock, bro. Like The
Rock is awesome.
He put some buckets up in 97, bro. 97, 98, 99.
Hey, and Face Off,
The Rock was 96. So 96, 97 was like his prime time.
He's running it up.
Face Off, real talk. I know people make fun of it now because of the premise, like two guys trade faces, you know? That movie is legitimately a good movie. It's 93% on Rotten Tomatoes. Okay. Like it is an actually good movie. Like, and Nicolas Cage has to play two characters because
Leaving Las Vegas is 95, man. His 95 to 97 run.
He went on a heater.
That's crazy.
Con Air, dog. I'm watching Con Air today, bro. It's a wrap. I'm up,
dude.
Controversial, but I really love him in National Treasure. So
yeah,
National Treasure's good.
Different generation. So like you know him for
Con Air though.
That was my introduction to him because I was like in 4th grade or whatever when it came out.
Even Matchstick Men. You guys ever see Matchstick Men with Sam Rockwell? That's a really good, like, kind of mystery, interesting movie.
I did like him in that Truffle Pig movie that came out like a year or two ago.
Yeah, Pig.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he's in this like horror, like weird movie called Mandy, which is, I don't know if you ever see Mandy. I'm not saying I recommend it, but it ends with a chainsaw fight from like a cult leader, like chainsaw him fight? In the woods with it. They get in a chain. They don't have swords. They have giant chainsaws. Like he's done some cool freaking movies.
Wasn't he in a scary movie that everybody was like, "Yo, his character is
Long Legs." Long Legs.
Yeah,
a serial killer movie.
Yeah.
I that's the thing, man.
He's got
Nicolas
range.
Cage.
Jesse, I will say that when we did the charity stunt. When you were watching 24 Hours Locked in the Cage, 24 Hours of Nicolas Cage movies that the fans voted for, subjected you to. I did not plan to join you for the whole time, but I felt so bad for you. I did. Yeah. So, you know, I would say the low point in that run for me, aside from Left Behind, was City of Angels. Do you remember? Because it came on like in the middle of the night. It was like 3 a.m. We were tired and it was so sappy and boring and like, City of Angels.
Yeah, it was, you know which one, while we're on the topic here, that surprised me because I didn't really know a lot about it was the movie Knowing, where, and and actually had like a lot of biblical themes. I don't know the backstory on it. I've always been kind of curious because he's visited by these like angelic beings. At one point, this spacecraft comes that's wheels within wheels, like that Ezekiel describes. And it's about him foretelling like the end of the world. That movie was actually pretty cool. He's in some decent stuff.
But for me, The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent, just it's brilliantly written. It's self-aware. Like he's in on the Nicolas Cage joke, and then like it's self-aware and like it turns from one movie to a completely different movie within the movie. It's insanely smart and very, very enjoyable. It's funny. I love it.
Yeah.
Anyway,
what's one thing you bought on impulse that you absolutely regret?
Too many to know. I don't remember. Like, honestly, I'm looking around. I'm like, yeah, I don't ever use that. Don't use that. Like
it's the air fryer.
What?
No, I use
mine every day.
I use mine all the time.
Do you?
Every day. Yeah.
Do you? Yeah. For us, it was an air fryer. Only reason we have a new one, but it's a toaster oven now. So now we use it's like 14 different features, but like the original just air fryer that's in like the big black thing with the handle on it. I never used that thing.
Dana took me to a nice restaurant for my birthday years ago, like a steakhouse, right? And she was like, let's not even look at the prices. Let's just have it's your birthday, a fun night, right? So we're like, what's a special? And they're like, oh, the tomahawk, We're like, oh, that sounds good, Then they had a drink that they made. Let me just give you a piece of advice. Always look at the prices at a high-end steakhouse because you can get the bill. And it was like, well, we could have gone on vacation for this. Always look at the prices.
I have a similar story. Do you want to share how much it was? I'm curious.
It was $900.
Okay.
Oh!
Jesse.
My heart hurts for you.
At least it was you and your wife.
Good?
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't worth $900, but it was good.
$900.
I have a chef friend who was summering in New York, right? And I went up to visit him. He's from Seattle, and he took me on a tour of the best restaurants in the city because chefs hook up chefs, right? He's a nationally known chef, and so we would go to the coolest spots, get reservations that were sold out, whatever, and chefs would then come and greet him and thank him for coming, and then everything was comped. Right. It was an incredible weekend food tour. And then a few months later, Chad, our old producer, and I were invited to go up to New York to meet with YouTube. And we were going to go up there for a couple of days. And so I told my chef friend who I spent the summer with in New York, hey, I'm going to New York again. Can you hook me up at any restaurants? Yeah. You know what? My buddy owns the #1 rated restaurant in the world, 11 Madison Park. Okay. 6 months reservation time. Let me make a call. Text me back. Got you in. You and Chad can go to 11 Madison Park. And I'm going, holy cow. Now, remember, my last experience in that world was they never saw a check. We never saw a check. Okay. So Chad and I go to 11 Madison Park. It's a chef's tour, 7 courses. They're taking us back to the kitchen. It's this whole incredible, unbelievable thing. I mean, how many meals do you remember? I remember that night. It was incredible. At the end of the night, they bring a check. $1,200 for me and Chad Michael Snavely to have dinner.
Jesus, take the wheel.
The pit of my stomach.
Yeah.
It was like, this
I had the
is
same
rent.
thing. But it's like,
rent.
why I can't just run out of here? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I can't dispute the charges I ate.
You could tell them that you just lost your job and you actually can't pay for this meal anymore.
I had no idea a check was coming, so I never looked at prices.
Yeah.
I didn't ask about the wine pairings. Just chef, whatever you recommend.
See that I'm the total opposite. I'm like, hey, bruh, where the prices at on this menu, bruh? Like, how much is this gonna cost? Because I get a salad and some dinner rolls and call it a day, bro. We're going up out of here.
Again, it was unexpected,
man.
But hey, you live and you learn,
Yeah,
Hey,
and you'll
Jesse,
always remember
I'm
that night.
sorry.
Yeah, for better or for
Well,
worse.
I think that's part of the reason why it's memorable is because you spent a ridiculous amount of money that you didn't want to spend, so you have to remember it.
Yeah, exactly. I ate every bite.
Oh, you savored that joint.
Can I get it to go back? Yeah.
We did. They were like, we don't really do. I was like, oh, you'll find something back there.
Put
And I took it home.
Go box, my boy.
Put it in my purse.
I said, well, we're taking it, whether you bring me a box or not. So you might want to find something.
You have a little medium rare steak in the bottom of her purse if you don't bring me no bag, bro.
Steak's about $200 an ounce. I'm taking it. Yeah.
Well, there's a lot more. We appreciate it. Maybe we'll do this again next week. You guys sent in some good questions. All right. Well, before we wrap up, I want to thank Malcolm Gladwell for joining us today. Make sure to check out his newest book, Revenge of the Tipping Point. It's available now. Also, I mentioned at the beginning of the show, we are going to one show a week every Tuesday in preparation for us also rolling out video. We have another daily podcast. It's in the piloting stages right now, and a lot of plans in the works. But anyway, one show a week, a little longer show, and we want to hear from you. Tell us what you think about it. Do you like the new schedule? Do you like the longer show? Do you miss falling behind because we put out too many episodes? We want to hear all of it, good, bad, and the ugly. Hit us up on X at Relevant Podcast if you want to share some of your feedback. All right, on that note, we'll wrap things up. I'm Cameron Strang.
I'm Jesse Carey.
I'm Derek Miner.
I'm Emily Brown.
We will see you next Tuesday, not in between. Have a great week, everyone.
Check out our features, interviews, and news updates every day at relevantmagazine.com. And make sure to follow Relevant on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram for the latest. For more great podcasts, browse the shows on the Relevant Podcast Network, which you can find at our site. And while you're there, don't miss the all-new era of Relevant Magazine. A new issue releases every other month at relevantmagazine.com.
If this thing dies at an intersection, what am I going to do?
Relevant Podcast Network.